New edition of MIAA Monday happening on Tuesday. It's been a busy few weeks for everybody across the MIAA, as well as yourself, Commissioner Mike Racy, joining me once again this week. Sir, thanks for coming on. And busy last week for you, and things kind of seem like we're moving ahead. I guess at this point is maybe the best way to describe how things in the conference are going right now.
Yeah, good to see you, Chris. And how about those Chiefs?
I know you were there. I knew you were there. I was there too, but man, that was a game.
Yeah, I think we should start there because I know we have a lot of Chiefs fans that tune into this podcast. And it's been an exciting weekend in Kansas City, and just to have something like that brings the region together, and just the energy in Kansas City right now behind the Chiefs. And but yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks for the conference as we got ready for the NCAA Convention, and then that event obviously took place last week in Indianapolis, and created I think some historic news with the delegates in all three divisions coming together and approving the new NCAA Constitution that creates a new governance model for the NCAA, and really, starts this process in each division of really trying to figure out what the divisions need to look like, how the divisions operate, how they share resources, and what membership looks like in each of the divisions.
With that being said, and I'm sure we'll get back to the Chiefs talk here in a little bit before the end of this podcast anyway, but with that being said, where does this now leave Division II as we look forward now that we've actually gotten to the convention? Because we've talked about the convention and everything for several months, but now that it's come and gone, where's Division II sit right now?
Yeah, well, I think the good news is that even though Division II is the most diverse division in the NCAA, a pretty equal split of public-private, of varying sizes of institutions, schools located in Canada, Puerto Rico, Alaska, Hawaii. It's just a very diverse membership spread from coast to coast. Even though that's the case, it's going into this new process, new NCAA, I think the Division II membership is the most together and seems to be kind of the most aligned behind a set of values and a philosophy statement that really describes in our diverse division the type of student experience that you're going to have in intercollegiate athletics. And that's one we talk a lot about, Chris, and that's life in the balance. That, Division II, whether you're at a large institution like Grand Valley State University or a small private church-affiliated institution with maybe 1,000 students, the goal, the objective is a very balanced student-athlete experience where your life as a student, your life as a leader on campus is not interfered with because you play sport and you're a varsity athlete. So I think of all of the divisions, we probably go into this process the most together, and the other two divisions, Division I, Division III, some work to be done on the membership front and how all of the parts fit together for those two groups.
With the convention, there are some changes that are coming for sports as well. You look at some of the big ones. You have the transfer rule, and we'll get through all these as we go too. I think maybe start with the transfer initiative. I saw former Missouri Western soccer player Mackenzie O'Neal was quoted in the NCAA article online too about the changes coming to how transfers work. Because if you look at the portal at 10,000 feet, there's a lot of people in the transfer portal. It's kind of changed how college athletics look at. What does this new rule kind of do with transfers and what they're allowed to do now?
Yeah, so the NCAA convention as a setting for the Division II membership, Chris, has always been an opportunity for each school to send delegates to the annual convention in January, and there are legislative proposals that get voted on by the membership. Each school and each conference in Division II has a single vote, and you're right. During our Division II business session on Saturday, there were about 8 or 9 legislative proposals. Some fairly routine, but the transfer legislation, the modifications being suggested for student athletes that wish to transfer in Division II was a proposal that got a lot of debate going into the convention. You're right. Mackenzie O'Neill, a student athlete advisory committee member from Missouri Western, actually the chair of the National Division II Student Athlete Advisory Committee this past year, was very influential in getting that proposal approved. She spoke on the convention floor, did a great job, and really what happened, the Division II delegates, knowing that we now have this transfer portal in all 3 divisions, and it's something new, and we're not going to go back. Student athletes, now have the right to say they're willing to consider other options, to look around. The mechanism they do that is the transfer portal, but there are some important modifications and changes that the Division II membership approved. And one of them, Chris, is that every student, before their name goes into that portal now in Division II, has to go through an education module. And it's online, but a student athlete will need to complete that education module that helps walk them through, all of the things that may or may not happen by putting your name in the transfer portal. Some of them good, maybe some of them not so positive, and really will help, I think, students make a more informed decision. Is this really what they want to do? There are also some elements of this new legislation that will require institution that a student is going to affirm that they had no input or influence in that student deciding to transfer, that it was legitimately that student, his or her advisors, parents, whoever, making that decision what was best, and it wasn't a coach or an institution that was out recruiting them to get them to leave for another school. One thing that we have done, Chris, in the MIAA, even with kind of this new world of transfer and students being able to really make decisions on it's time to leave this school, I want to go to this school, I think the grass may be greener on the other side. We have maintained in the MIAA our restrictions if a student is transferring from one MIAA school to another. And our policy is that if you do that, you can certainly do that, and you're welcome at that new school, but you're going to sit out a year of athletics participation. You're going to have to put in a year of residence focused on academics at your new MIAA school. If that MIAA student was transferring to another D2 or another Division I, they're likely going to be able to play right away. But we protected that in the MIAA just to remove any perception that this type of recruiting and influence is taking place. We still have a waiver process. And this is important for all of the attorneys that are listening. We have a process that if a student is truly transferring from one MIAA school to another because of health reasons, because of academic reasons, because of a parent being sick, because of a variety of issues, those can be granted. But what we're trying to prevent is a student that's transferring within the MIAA for athletic reasons, and that 1 year restriction is still in place in our conference.
Another one of the legislation that came through dealt with the football advisory committee. So some limitations on, I believe, I don't have the sheet right back in front of me right now, but kind of limiting contact practices and stuff like that. Is that just more along the safety protocols they're trying to put into?
Yeah, it is. And this is a new preseason practice model that's been adopted in all three divisions now. And certainly, yes, you're right. That's one of the other legislative actions Division II took at our business session on Saturday. And it was a vote of all of the D2 football schools. It passed overwhelmingly. It's being driven by the NCAA Sports Science Institute. It's really focused on player safety, player health, doing things that really reduce the number of occasions and full pads that could lead to more injuries before the season starts. The good news is that most of our MIAA schools were already doing this, Chris. Most of our MIAA football coaches for a few years now have made these changes on their own. The MIAA has really helped lead the way. Coach T at Northwest Missouri State, he had implemented a number of these policies when he was coaching. And I've talked to him about this legislation. He thinks it's positive for the rest of the division, for all three divisions to be operating kind of under these new health and safety protocols for preseason football. And certainly all of that goes into effect for the upcoming football season.
Another one of I think it's one of the more interesting legislation that went through Division II. It's the civil duty and the first Tuesday in November. When people look at how close the vote was, there may be some ideas of what happened, but when you read through it, the main concern was scheduling is what I kind of took away from why this is such a hard pass through there, but it did get passed through that student athletes will have that first Tuesday in November. If you live under a rock, that's usually election day through there in November. That one kind of coming through, was that something that was kind of heavily discussed? I mean, it looked like it just because how close.
Yeah, it was a lot of debate on the convention floor on that. It's a civic engagement proposal, and Division II approved it by a close margin at the convention on Saturday. All three divisions have this rule in place. And it's intended to help student athletes be more educated, more attuned to things that are going on related to elections every year, whether it's national, state, local. And the new rule that was approved narrowly is that every year on that election day, there can be no athletically related activities, whether you're in season or out of season. You can't practice, you can't have games, you can't have coordinated workouts. It's supposed to be a day that will help students get to the polls and cast their vote. I don't think there's anybody that voted on that proposal in favor or against that doesn't think that's a good idea, that doesn't believe that voting is a good idea. The people that express concerns are really folks that look at that place in the schedule in early November for sports like, cross country, volleyball, soccer. They're already into the conference preseason or the conference postseason tournaments and events. Football, that's nearing the last 2 weeks of the season. Some schools in the country are still playing on Thursday. Taking Tuesday off before a Thursday game is problematic. There are some people that talked about how easy it is to vote absentee now, and knowing that a lot of these students are registered to vote, not in the community where the university is located, but their hometown for many of them, and will need to vote absentee anyway. So, there were a lot of just logistical concerns that were expressed about a day off for all student athletes and coaches in November to get them to the polls, but ultimately it passed. And I think we have a few volleyball games that are scheduled on that election day for next year that we'll need to modify the MIAA schedule, get that addressed. But yeah, it's interesting. It was an interesting debate, and like I said, eventually passed with a narrow margin.
Yeah, because when you look at the narrow margin, you're like, that's weird. But then when you start, like you said, break it down, you read what kind of all went into it. It was more logistics as to scheduling and everything like that. It wasn't a no, you can't go vote type of deal, nothing like that. So,
yeah.
I want to go back to kind of the future maybe of the NCAA. You shared the article with me, and a lot of people I think have already seen it from Sports Illustrated about what this means now going forward. And I thought one of the interesting quotes in there is from Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby.
Mm-hmm.
Division I's too large. What does that maybe signal for Division II, or what the future of Division I and maybe the waterfall effect or the snowball effect could be for Division II once Division I kind of sorts itself out down the line too?
Yeah. So last Thursday, Chris, at the NCAA convention, it was a historic moment for the association. The association dates back to 1906. 118 years or so, 16 years that the association's been around, and there are probably 6 or 7 moments that you can point to in history where the members of the association in all 3 divisions last Thursday came together and changed the governing structure and how things get done, and who has what responsibilities and duties. And really the best way to describe what happened last Thursday in the historic vote to put in a new constitution is that it now means that every division, Division I, Division II, Division III, now has complete and full autonomy to structure and put in place rules, bylaws, budgets, championship protocols without the influence of the other 2 divisions. So Division I now has this freedom to figure out, all right, what do we need to do? How do we want this to work? And they've got a lot of big issues that they need to wrestle with. And one of them that, Commissioner Bowlesby mentioned is membership. And I share his thoughts and views that Division I is too big, that there are, more than half the membership in Division I is completely out of alignment with what's going on the Power 5 conferences, campuses. There's no similarity in the student experience, the funding model, what fans experience, the TV influence, all of those things. We've seen 20, 25 years, a number of Division II and even Division III schools, Chris, that have moved to Division I, chasing a opportunity to make March Madness and to have that one shining moment, and maybe to beat a school that's a basketball blue blood, and shock the world and get a lot of media attention. And schools have done that at the sacrifice of all of their other sports programs, especially women's athletics. And I think Division I is going to find a way to address that. There's a lot of talk, Chris, about a 4th division or another subdivision of Division I that might be just the Power 5s, and that when you have a College World Series in baseball or softball in Division I, it would be made up entirely of those Power 5 conferences. The smaller D1s would have a different championship. How money gets shared. Right now, the Power 5s are sharing a lot of the NCAA money with non-Power 5 conferences. And it's primarily built around success in the Division I men's basketball tournament. They're certainly going to add the women's basketball tournament now to that funding model. And they may make bigger changes that keeps more of that money at the Power 5 level. So there's a lot of big things that Division I is going to have to talk about. We have our own issues in Division II. We need to figure out how name, image, likeness works for our institutions. We need to continue to monitor the transfer issues we talked about. We need to continue to figure out how does some of the things that the Supreme Court case in Alston from this past summer, how does that impact Division II conferences where more and more responsibilities are being put on the conference and away from the national office? We have to figure out all those things. But Division I has really, issues that cut at power and money. And over the next 6 to 8 months, they're going to have to figure these things out. They have a committee, it's called their transformation committee, that's looking at all of these things in Division I. And it's being chaired by Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, and Julie Cromer, who is the athletics director at the University of Ohio. And I think they're in the MAC. So, those are the two leaders. They've got to come together on an agenda, and then they've got to try to take their committee down a path, on a leading, hopefully in a direction that's positive, where Division I can work through some of these complicated issues, and we can keep all of these schools under the NCAA umbrella.
Kind of looking at that article again, a lot of fascinating stuff. If you haven't looked at, kind of the presidents and athletic directors that have kind of been quoted throughout this, but one of them I find interesting too, and it's one of the anonymous SEC presidents wrote in a survey that the Power 5 should be an organization unto itself. If that's the way, because like you said, Division I, Division II, Division III can all kind of do their thing that they need to do now. Does that have a trickle down effect if the Power 5s decide, you know what, we're on our own, good luck, FCS and all the small D1s, either create your own thing, or Division II may have to open up, or I guess, does that affect Division II a lot if the Power 5s do something like this?
It certainly impacts it. In fact, in that article, there's a Division III athletics director at California Tech, Division III institution. She's a former Olympic swimmer, went to the University of Texas, and she gave this speech last Thursday on the convention floor and basically said, D1 at the highest level, Power 5, and she's experienced it as an administrator and as a student. She said, you don't look anything like the rest of us. And you want things to be different, go ahead and leave. That was her speech. Go do your own thing. Leave everyone else under the umbrella of the NCAA. That's not my position. My position is that the Power 5, they can have their own organizational autonomy still under the NCAA umbrella by figuring out a way to subdivide Division I, to do some things within the Division I structure, but that keeps those schools there, that keeps some semblance of March Madness in place. As you know, that's 90% of the revenue that comes to the NCAA is generated from March Madness, and that gets shared with Divisions 2 and 3.
Right.
And that's how we fund really everything we do at the postseason level. And if D1 Power 5 went their own way under their own umbrella, their own organization, separate media contracts, it hurts Divisions 2 and 3. And so we've got to figure out a way to keep them in line. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting points and comments in that Sports Illustrated article. I think they did an excellent job of really capturing where we're at as an organization coming out of the NCAA convention.
I mean, another part of that article, you look at 350 schools across Division I, and you have the Tech, and they mentioned Texas, the Ohio State budgets, and then you have the other end of the small schools through there too. And you mentioned the fact that keeping Power Fives in the NCAA, how does that, I guess, how can that happen without, because they kind of alluded to it in the article, they don't want to hold the NCAA hostage or anything like that, but does it kind of feel like it's got to be we kind of have to give and take with the Power Fives. We need March Madness. We need things to stay intact, but at what cost to do it, I guess, if that's the right way maybe to word it?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's got to be leaders are going to have to emerge, and leaders that have a bold vision and a vision for Division I athletics that can bring people together and try to figure out what's best for the Power Five, what's best for the D1 schools that don't have football, what's best for women's basketball, what's best for D1 baseball. You know, all of those things are going to have to end up in a big pot, and hopefully, someone that has some vision is making some delicious chili in that pot, because we've got to figure out a way to keep this all together. But, Chris, there's a potential for some real impact on Division II. Some schools may decide that the new D1, isn't worth it financially, or doesn't provide their student athletes a very healthy and positive experience, and they're going to look at schools like Northwest Missouri State and Central Missouri and Pittsburgh State and Washburn, and go down the list of MIAA schools that have great facilities, healthy supporting communities, enrollment, a long tradition and history as an institution, schools that could be D1, but decide that they want to be in the MIAA and compete in Division II because it's the right place for their student athletes. We talk a lot in the MIAA, come to an MIAA school and have a shot at winning a national championship. And we mean it in every sport. And our leaders, our administrators recognize that if they were, chasing a March Madness dream, it would be a different experience for their track student athletes and their volleyball student athletes and their soccer student athletes. And Division II is a good place to be. So we may see some schools in Division I, Chris, at the end of this decide, yeah, Division II is where we belong. And we may see membership growth within Division II.
Kind of a question with those. When schools are maybe, and from a commissioner's point of view on this, when schools are trying to figure out Division II schools going to Division I, that are trying to chase that March Madness opportunity, and compare it with staying Division II and going for national championships. And I hate that I can't remember who the 16 seed was that beat Virginia a couple of years ago that kind of got that March Madness fame. But you have them, and you have Loyola, and you have schools like that. You seek at this. How do schools weigh between trying to maybe get that March Madness opportunity with staying in Division II, where there is a chance maybe more to win national championships across the board too?
Well, what's hard is that alumni and boosters often influence boards, and boards make these decisions. There are a lot of presidents that look at their budget and understand that, the financially responsible thing, the fiscally responsible thing is to be in Division II and to spend about a fourth of what they spend in Division I to try to be competitive in their conference. They could spend a fourth of it, be a Division II member, and be competing for national championships. But the problem is the public, the donors, the boosters that have the ear of the board, they see what they see on TV. What's telling is you're in the media, you're a sports guy, and you'd already forgotten that it was Maryland, Baltimore County.
I know.
That beat Virginia.
UMBC, yeah.
Yeah, and that should be a strong message to the folks at Maryland, Baltimore County that maybe it's not worth it. People aren't going to really remember us as that D1 program. They're going to remember that Virginia got beat.
Right.
But, is that investment and cost to move all of your programs to D1 for that one shining moment that people don't even remember a couple of years later? Is it worth it? I think not. And I'm biased. I love Division II. I believe in Division II. I know what Division II stands for and the type of experience our student athletes have. But I think it should not be the smallest division in the NCAA. What it stands for and what it's carved out as its mission of life in the balance, it should actually be the largest division in the NCAA. The majority of schools should see that that's a healthy place to compete in intercollegiate athletics that's perfectly aligned with the institutional mission and the higher ed purpose of that institution. It should be the largest division, not the smallest.
Man, we could go on for hours about this conversation, but I'll get you out of here kind of on this note before we get to the Chiefs talk again. You brought up the what we see on TV, and I'll kind of use the Chiefs as an example that Kansas City had a 90 share of that Bills game on Sunday, where it's 90% of Kansas City's watching that game. And you have almost 50 million people watching football. Now it's NFL. But when you have boosters, when you have people see that the millions watching, the college football playoffs, the bowl games, March Madness, how much pressure does that put on the institutions to make a decision? Because the biggest thing in media right now, it's streaming services, but live sports are the big draw still that gets people to tune into your typical cable television network TV. I guess how big is that kind of that weight on maybe even conferences too of what do we do here? Because there's still a lot of people watching, or this is what we have to deal with. I mean, is there a way to, I guess, word this at this point with just how big of a process this is?
Well, the key for Division II to be successful in this rapidly changing media environment is to be innovative and to be willing to take some chances and some risks. And that's what people want. They want creativity. They want ingenuity. And we can do that in Division II. We have to be resourceful. And I'll point to our MIAA network, Chris. I think it's a huge success story that the MIAA is one of the few non-D1s that have created a subscription model for broadcasting all of our sporting events. There's still a lot of work to be done on some of our campuses in enhancing quality, and but that people that are watching this need to know that those are the discussions that we have every day in our office with our athletic directors and our presidents, ways that we need to continue to enhance the MIAA network. That's the future of our conference. And, we want everyone that comes and watches and are fans of the MIAA to have a great experience. We also know that that is a promotional opportunity for every one of our schools that can connect with prospective students, prospective parents of students, people that may not know a lot about the MIAA, and when they tune in to watch, they need to like what they see. our facilities, the way that our coaches are engaged and positive on the sidelines, the full stadiums, the passionate fans and communities that come out and support our schools. All of that gets showcased on our network. And in the same way that, the Big Ten has created their network, the Southeastern Conference has their network. That's the future of sports media. And we're there, and we've been taking some baby steps, but we've got to continue to focus on the MIAA network as really our shining star in helping to promote our conference.
MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, will get you out of here on this. When you were at the Bills Chiefs Sunday night, one of the best football playoff games, recent memory at least, and maybe the debate will go on forever if this is one of the greatest of all time. What about this Sunday? You have Bengals, Chiefs, back at Arrowhead. It's an earlier game, 2:00 game, but your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm a big Joe Burrow fan.
Ooh.
I think he is he's cocky and arrogant and very confident, and that's exactly what you want in a quarterback.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be a closer game than maybe some people are predicting. But I think there's just something about Patrick Mahomes, and he wasn't playing his best football early in the year, and that's okay. He's back, and everything that we've seen, the unbelievable throws, the long runs, the creativity. He's going to do something to find a way to win that game. So I'm confident that next week we'll talk, Chris, and we'll be talking about another Chiefs Super Bowl appearance. And you're right. I think it was the greatest football playoff game in the history of the NFL. My son and I, on our way home, my son in the car said, "Dad, I can't remember a better football game that I've ever been at." And I told him, I said, "Zach, you just watched the greatest game in NFL history." We're very fortunate that we were there. It was a magical night, and I think Sunday will be another one for the Chiefs.
I'm just glad you're a Joe Burrow fan, because to me, he's one of my favorites, because he doesn't hide kind of his persona. Joe Burrow unapologetically is Joe Burrow, and I love that fact. Mahomes is kind of the same way too. He kind of maybe plays it off a little bit when he gets in front of the microphone, but when you see Patrick Mahomes out there, that was a special. And Josh Allen, he's special too. There's a lot of really good young AFC quarterbacks. Justin Herbert, in the division. I mean, it's going to be fun for quite a while, I think. I know.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's this new era of quarterbacks that kind of takes me back to the days when Elway and Marino and Jim Kelly and all of those. This kind of seems like that same era of quarterbacks that are leaders, confident, can do it all, and it's just it's fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, I'll ask you. Do you have a score prediction?
Oh, let's go Chiefs 31, Bengals 27.
Just say I was going to go about 35-31 Chiefs in this one, because I think it's going to be another one of those high scoring. So should be fun. Commissioner Racy, thank you as always. Fascinating stuff going on with the NCAA. Division I, we know there's a lot of work there. Division II, kind of not wait and see mode, but there's kind of some wait and see of what the Division I does. But Division II, a lot of good things going on at the Division II level as well.
Yep, important work in all three divisions. It's going to be an interesting year, and I appreciate your interest in all of this, Chris. It's great to get with you every week and have these conversations about what's going on in college sports.
Absolutely, pleasure's mine. Thank you for coming on again.
All right, good to see you, Chris. Thanks.
Take care.